Welcome to Living from the Inside Out with Holly Wade. Living from the Inside Out is about living fully, guided from your inside. Holly shares the wisdom of how your mind, body, and spirit are truly connected and that you deep down know your own answers. Holly and her guests will provide tips, practices, and inspirational stories to help you approach your life from your own heart. And here's Holly.
Hey everyone, this is Holly Wade with Holly Wade Wellness. Thanks for joining this week's edition of Living from the Inside Out. Today I have a really special guest with me. So in my past life, I worked at a campus and I had the opportunity to work with a lot of different students. And the cool thing is I get to follow them on their career paths or along their journeys thanks to social media. And this particular young man, and we're not going to use his name because we don't want to jeopardize, we just want to keep his image anonymous for his career. But I've been following his career and he's rocking it in the advertising and modeling and acting and whatever else do you do?
Those things. I also produce theater and I do general management for theater too.
Oh my gosh.
And I write and produce films too. Yay.
Yeah, no wonder you're all over the place, busy. Do you ever sleep?
I sleep at least like 6 hours a night. That's like the minimum to be a human, you know.
Hey.
7 to 8's better, but like 6 will do.
Yeah, you're doing awesome to get that in, especially because I do see, that you're on this shoot or that you're doing this show or that you're I'm like, holy moly.
Posting like that is just really helpful for branding because people when they look you up, they're like, who's this guy? And like, if I'm already working that day, they're like, oh, he's desirable. Let's like lock him down for dates. So I really think it does help.
Yeah, I agree. That's the good old marketing world in general. Mm-hmm. That's what we do. But I see you just doing all kinds of cool things. You've been to some pretty cool places too.
Yeah. I toured the US, been like basically every city. I toured all over Canada, worked on a cruise ship in the Caribbean, spent like 8 months down there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So one of the reasons that I wanted to bring this friend of mine on is because I happened to see a display that had his image on it. And I was like, hey, would you be interested in sharing with our listeners, I almost said viewers, with my listeners about kind of the contradiction between what we're being, like we were talking about this before we started recording, that we're really being sold an image and what it actually takes for even someone like you, not listeners, for someone like my friend, to achieve that image. And as one of our listeners, is that something that you're really willing to do? So can you kind of give us some of the background of like some of the crazy things that you've had to do for your career, for your jobs?
A lot of people are happy on keto. It makes me feel like trash because I work out a lot with like a weightlifting team, and then I work out with like a CrossFit kind of group. So like I just do a lot of fitness. So doing that on a keto diet does not feel good because you don't have enough like ready energy. Like some endurance athletes do keto because it utilizes their brown fat cells, and like since they're burning calories slower, it works really well for them. But it's like it definitely gets all the water out of your body really quick. But a lot of people are happy on that. The worst thing I've ever had to do for shoots, and probably the most unhealthy but the most effective, would be something similar to what bodybuilders do before their competition shows. It's called a water taper. So essentially in between 10 and 20 days, you drink a whole ton of water, and then slowly throughout the time you diminish it because your body gets used to having that much, and once it stabilizes, so then like until the day before your shoot or your show, you don't drink any water. So like you're just like, it like shrink wraps your body because you have no water in it.
Yeah, so you're basically dehydrated at the time of the event. Or
Extremely. There's videos of bodybuilders online just like passing out,
yeah.
like trying, and all they're doing is walking across stage and like they have to flex. Bodybuilding is crazy. They don't even make a lot of money. I don't understand why anybody does that.
Exactly. I'm so glad that you brought up keto because I've been talking about that a little bit lately because I am not a fan of restricting anything.
Mm-hmm.
We need fat and carbs as our fuel sources. No matter what your job is, whether you're an athlete or not, you need carbs. Maybe not as many, but I think, you know, when you understand how the body functions.
I don't think keto advocates for zero carbs. I think keto, I usually kept my net under 20, which still isn't a ton, but I'm counting net. So things like avocados, like those are high in carbs, but low in net. So you can eat a ton of those. But like no bananas or like quick glucose, like things with high glycemic indexes, you are going to like max you out for the day immediately.
Which are your quick fuel sources.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I totally understand the science behind keto. I just think that it's not, I think that people have to be really informed on it.
One major consideration for that is, well, getting into ketogenesis is like, people say they don't feel good until after 2 weeks, but I've never done it that long, so I have no idea. But if like bad kidneys runs in your family, like having that much protein might not be great for you. So maybe if you want to restrict your carbs in that way and do net carbs, like a higher fat would be a better option. Which there are higher fat diets too, and there's a couple different ways that people do keto, and that's one of them. So that's theoretically better for your organs at least. But I'd rather I love bananas. Like I eat them all the time. Right.
And I'm a fan of, if you're eating vegetables in general, I'm a fan of just eat the rainbow.
Yeah.
Skittles, but if you eat a really colorful diet, you're getting mostly fruits and vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
And if you limit the fruits and focus more on veggies, you're getting your vitamins and minerals. You're naturally cutting down carbs because you're filling your body full of more bulk. And you're going to get some carbs just because people don't always understand this. Some fruits and vegetables have higher carbs.
A ton of them do. I'm so confused when people are like, I'm cutting down carbs. And then they're like smashing tons of fruit. And I'm like, no, you're not, which is fine. But you're just not eating like those processed garbage carbs. And that's like great.
Right.
I just don't understand what carbs are.
Right. Exactly. If you want to cut out your breads, that's a different story.
Your body doesn't need them. Cut them out.
Exactly. That's a different story. But I'm with you. I need my bananas. That's kind of my big one. So what are some of the more fun things that you've experienced?
I've done everything from riding zip lines for commercials to like working on that cruise ship. Like they fly you wherever they're shooting, like, and getting to travel and get paid for it's really cool, especially when like your job's not that intense. I mean, getting the job is hard, but like actually doing it usually isn't that hard. Like even if you're doing like narrative acting, like what am I doing? I'm like saying words somebody else wrote. I'm like walking where somebody else told me to stand, and like people act like it's this crazy thing, but I don't know, maybe it just comes differently to some people than others.
Yeah, could be. Well, you've, in my opinion, for as long as I've known you, or from the first time that I met you, I think you're kind of a natural.
Storytelling. Yeah.
Yeah. Not that you haven't worked at it.
I got a degree in it. Like, so I say that, but then I think back to like how I used to be at acting, and I guess it does take training some, but there's definitely natural components to it.
So what do you think, how have you changed or adapted as a human?
As a human since moving here,
yeah.
You have to choose very carefully what you can care about, because there's so many things that are outside of your control.
That's a good one.
So letting go of those things is really important, especially to living in New York, because like like the MTA is always going to suck. Like you can't control that. Like you can't control, really how audition rooms go besides preparing for them. You can't like control how other people's days are most of the time. Like you can impact them, sure, like by having an impactful experience, but like you can't control how they are coming into that experience.
Right.
So letting go of the things you have no control of was really important for me.
How is it, because you're constantly being criticized?
I honestly no longer care what like any of them think. Like I can't. It's too
Right.
exhausting.
Yeah. I can imagine.
I listen to them, and if they give me like criticism I can use, I try and hold on to that. But if it's just mean, like you just gotta let it roll off you.
Yeah. And I can imagine that there's a lot of that, especially when they're looking for specific things about your body for an ad or for a shoot or for a role.
For modeling, it's totally different. It's like such a vapid world, but it pays a ton, if you do the right jobs. So it's what we're here for.
Right. Gotta get.
I don't love that. I do that to make money, and like it works, but
yeah,
I don't like love standing in front of cameras. Like there's nothing inherently awesome about that.
You're not fulfilled by that part?
No.
So explain to us a little bit about what happens behind the scenes. Because we see the product, we see the airbrushing, we see the, all the photoshopping and all the stuff to make the image or everything perfect.
The FDA approved products, they actually can't Photoshop or airbrush us at all for those. So everyone you see on those FDA approved products, they're totally natural. I mean, at least natural in the sense that in that photograph, there's nothing changed about them, or legally they're not allowed to. So, I can't say that it never happens, but they're not supposed to.
So let me ask you this. Is there, like in the before and afters, is there really a period of time between the before and after? Like, is there like several days or weeks?
When I've done those, it was 17 weeks.
Oh, and so there really was a legit before and after.
Yeah. And it's funny. They asked me to come in like as fat as I possibly could, and then they lit me to look fat. And then I ended up doing a water taper. So, I mean, over 17 weeks, and I probably lost like 20 something pounds of fat. And then I probably lost like 20 pounds of water.
Wow. So how did you gain it?
If they I was like, it was the end of a strength cycle. Like I was already heavier because I was eating a ton. I was like really strong, and that was fun. Like eating a ton and being strong is fun. Strength cycles are the best. But they were like, would you be willing to do this? And I was like, I was about to do this for free. Yes. That was an easy choice for me.
Nice. That's really interesting and good to hear because
they gave me a trainer. They gave me dietitians. Like I didn't use their diet or do their program, but like it was available.
So you were able to do it in a healthy way.
Yeah, their diet just wasn't enough calories. It was like 1,200, but I was burning around like 700 to 800 every day, like just in fitness. And then like, being alive burns 1,600. So like it just wasn't enough.
Yeah. Because you're pretty muscular anyway.
Yeah. They brought over 30 people into that program for New York. And if people weren't meeting like the goals, they kind of cut them out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And it may not have even been the people, like that they weren't trying. It may have been that their body kind of hit a plateau.
Maybe. Yeah.
There could be all kinds of factors that play into that.
Ton of variables there. My thing about supplements is like the word supplemental, right? It means in addition to.
Right.
So sometimes branding might seem like, this is your key to that, but like it's in the word like supplement, like it cannot replace your diet and it cannot replace your exercise. Like it might do a little bit at the end, but like most of the bulk is still just always going to be diet and exercise, and mostly diet if we're talking about body comp.
I fully agree with that. What do you think it is? Let me ask you from a consumer standpoint, or a human standpoint, why do you think it is that we, as a society, because we know people buy into the quick fix, buy into the next diet, the next supplement, the next whatever,
yeah.
And
of course they do.
Used.
People want it to be easy.
Yeah.
And it's just not. But they, they see something on a shelf and they're like, it's easy. And you're like, oh, great. They're like, maybe it is. And they, spend $30.
On something that they're going to pee out.
Yeah.
That may or may not actually, their body may or may not actually utilize, is what I mean by
And if it does, we'll do very little.
Right.
In my experience of using any supplement.
Yeah.
What I think the best supplement I've used is probably BCAAs. Because, like, the science of those I get, and I think they work because they provide, like, sort of the building blocks, but you can get most of that through eating anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. So a little tangent. I recently had to wrestle through that because I do supplements. I mean, as you know, I have a chronic condition, and so I need, as you said, addition to make sure that I'm getting everything that I need.
Certain things that your body can't absorb for whatever reason. So.
Right, or has a harder time. So I need a little boost in those things. Yeah. And I just, for exactly what you said, because we can get most of it through food, I didn't want to become a part of or an advocate for a supplement company. And I found one that I really like. So I am.
But well, if you find a good one, then
yeah,
I don't see any problem with that.
And that's just it. And I had to wrestle with it personally. And what I came to the conclusion is that it took me years to figure out how to eat. And a lot of people need kind of that stair step to get there. And this is really a tool to assist. It's not something that creates meal replacements and those kinds of things. So
those make me nervous, the meal replacements. I'm like, why? Just eat a meal.
It's so much more enjoyable to have food.
Mm-hmm. Well, those are usually something they're calling a meal that's like pretty low in calories, so that, it's like, I already drank dinner, so I don't need to eat dinner. Like, I had dinner. So I really think it's just in the wording of that. They're like, do this instead. Yeah. Which is the under 1,200 like calorie per day diets. Like, those make me nervous because at that point you're like starting to lose brain function. You're like, your organ function's getting a little bit worse. And then, like, when you're losing weight in that fashion, you're losing muscle and fat and organ tissue.
Yeah.
Which is not ideal.
No, because your body's going to turn from its own fuel sources to utilizing. It's going to eat itself because that's a bad place to get to.
Don't want to put your body in starvation mode, especially because it like really wrecks your metabolism, and then like you're burning calories slower until you finally build more muscle again. It's like, it's not worth it.
Oh, the cycle.
Yeah.
The cycle. So tell me, what are some of the interesting things that you've learned through doing some different ads and things, or working with different companies? What are some of the interesting things that you've learned that you didn't know? Like learning about an industry, or learning about, like what you just said with the FDA can't, or because of law, like these supplement companies have to have legit pictures and images.
Yeah, those are only the ones that want the FDA approval. A lot of them don't have that, so they can kind of just do whatever they want and like, put whoever they want in their packaging. Like a lot of people on the protein like cases like are totally on steroids. Like, that protein's never going to make you look like that.
Yeah. But it doesn't mean that person's not using that product.
No, they might be, and especially if they're getting it for free. I mean, for me, for protein, like whichever protein's the cheapest, like I'm gonna buy, and if it doesn't make me sick, I'm gonna buy it again. Because like it's hard to mess up whey protein, right? Like, but who knows?
Well, it's the other things that are added to it that make me nervous.
Mm-hmm. I should probably be better about reading those. I never do, and I'm like, yeah, this looks fine.
There's something that you've learned that you were like, oh, that's fascinating, or that's really interesting.
About what specifically? I'm not entirely sure what you're asking.
So, like in your field, as you were doing a shoot or learned about a company, because you were hired by them. Like maybe you didn't know that much, or maybe you researched them when you went into the audition for them. Is there something that, is there something that you were like, oh, I didn't know that before?
The bigger companies, in my experience, they're basically all the same. Like they're just trying to make money. So in terms of like learning things about them, like money is always the bottom line. Um, and how they make that, is they put models on the box, and they, if they're not FDA approved, can Photoshop them. And I've learned is like marketing, it's to trick people into buying stuff or to like convince them it's the best product. And it's always going to be about that. So it is up to the consumer to be educated and, figure out what will work and if they need it. So what I've learned is that, you can't really believe anything you see in marketing. Like there's no rules. And like we talk about there being like, there's no lying in advertising, but there's blatant lying in advertising. Like, I won't say what the product is, but like, let's say a water enhanced with vitamins, like it's almost entirely sugar. None of those vitamins are absorbed. Yeah. If a product like that were to exist,
yeah,
that would probably be the way it was.
I'm going to dive into that topic next week, as I'm going to break down some of the, and not just in advertising, not just in the advertising world. I think we're in a world in general where we're so inundated with information and misinformation that it gets really hard to sift through what's true and what's a half truth. Because I feel like a lot of, as you just said, the job of marketing is to get people to buy a product, say, hey, you need this. And I actually studied advertising and marketing as an undergrad, and I knew I couldn't do it. I knew that it didn't feel right to me on the inside. I just felt like it was one big manipulating machine. And I didn't feel good about it then. And I thought, you know what? I can do the same thing with health, because that's what I buy into, and use those same strategies and tools and teach people and educate people. But it's a hard road to do that because of all the misinformation, because there's a lot of sifting through that we have to do. And I think it just exhausts people.
Yeah. And the branding comes down to even just our personal lives now, because people brand themselves with social media. So like, I feel like I don't even know who anybody is. And like, I use it all the time because you have to, like, it's just important, but it's a very face value kind of world right now. And like some people, I feel like I don't even know. They walk around like their Facebook profile picture, and I'm like, yeah, but like, how are you today?
Oh, that's a good one. Because that's humanness. That's not industry based. That is true. That's what we are turning into. That's exactly. And I've thought about that. Like everybody has their own TV channel, really, when you think about it. We all are the star of our own show. It's like is it the Truman Show? Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like we all get to be that now, to a degree.
Crazy world.
It is a crazy world. So let me ask you this. What fulfills you with what you do? Like, what do you find most fulfilling with all these things that you do?
My mission statement as a person is to create art that can change people, hopefully for the better. And if not, at least to make them question why they think what they do, and if they have a good enough reason for it, or if they have to think of something else.
That's not on you. That is so you.
So yeah, my goal is make people consider why they think what they do, and then hopefully try and make them for what I think is better.
So have you ever had anyone respond to some of your work where you were like, yes, that's why I do this?
Yeah, all the time, especially with a lot of shorts I've been making. And I have a lot of people who don't get them at all, and that's okay. And then a lot of people who do, and it deeply affects them. I post a lot of fitness vids, just because like it helps get views and watch hours on YouTube. And I have a lot of people who are like, oh, cool, like I didn't know that exercise exists. And they're like, oh, I can do this at home. And that kind of that's exciting for me, that like, because like hopefully I can inspire somebody else to do fitness, like to get off the couch that day.
Because it's that personal connection that you get to have with them.
Yeah.
In a way, like your life really brushing on theirs, not just your work.
Yeah, and I don't really enjoy making the fitness vids, because like I'd rather just work out. But instead I have to like tape everything, and it's kind of boring to like edit them. But you know, if those people will get off the couch.
Are you ready to become a warrior for your health and your life? What does that mean? Well, I've come to believe that it takes courage to show up for our health and to create this extraordinary life. And it doesn't have to look like everyone else's. If you are feeling aches and pains in your body that are keeping you from living vibrantly, if you are exhausted because of the daily pressures of your life, if you find yourself just coming home and recovering over the weekend so that you can get through another work week, then you're not living vibrantly. And we need to change some things. I'm Holly Wade with Holly Wade Wellness, and I've developed a 12-week program called Lifetime Warrior. I bring in all of these things that I've come to know through studying and have integrated into my own life, because I'm not giving you anything that I don't live. I live these things almost every single day. And the things that we're going to bring in are some energy work and understanding what that feels like in your body, nutrition, just the basics of how do I feed and fuel my body well, movement so that it feels really good for you. You don't have to hit it hard and punish your body. As a matter of fact, I encourage the opposite. I encourage finding things that light you up and are enjoyable. We're going to focus on sleep and getting enough rest and relaxation techniques to help you do that. I bring in the neuroscience that I've learned, mind-body connection, Reiki, aromatherapy. All these things are kind of integrated and packaged into this 12 weeks, that it's not where I'm doing it for you to heal you. I'm equipping you to get to know and understand your own body and the wisdom that resides there, so that you are fully empowered to make choices for your health and your life. The first 4 weeks, we deal with the physical body. So we're going to focus on healing your gut, moving your body, and feeling really good, feeling rested, and creating habits around those things. The second 4 weeks, the second phase, we focus on the mind. What are your thoughts? What stresses you out? And how do you start to manage your thoughts so that they're no longer managing you? Big stuff, huh? Third phase is setting boundaries and your vision. So what is it that you want for your life? Have you ever actually sat with that and asked yourself that question? What do I want? There's nothing wrong with asking yourself that question. So in dealing with our physical, mental/emotional, soul, and life, you're well-rounded and armed to start to live your life as a warrior, to step up and show up for your health and your life. I would love to get on a 30-minute phone call with you to discover if this is the right program for you. Email me at Holly@Holly Wade Wellness. I've got room for 12 people in this program. Are you one? Are you one of those people? Email me and let's get on a phone call to see if this program is right for you. I'd love to take you on the journey to become a warrior for your health and your life. so that you are a lifetime warrior too.
Because of watching it, then great.
Part of the deal. Part of the deal. So I asked you this a little bit, but I'm going to twist it maybe a little bit more and dig in a little more. When you graduated, like when
Yes.
I last got to have a face-to-face conversation with you, and if you could tell that guy what would have opened up for you, like what do you think he would think right now? Like if you could just say, hey, this is what your life is this is the roller coaster ride that you're gonna be on the next few years, and this is what it's gonna play out.
If I told like high school me that I'd book an off-Broadway show, like my head would have exploded, but like I've done like 10.
Yeah.
I haven't booked any Broadway shows yet. That's okay. I don't need to. They're less fun. Pay twice as much. But like are generally like, you know, more fluffy kind of content because that's what sells tickets. But
Yeah.
I think it would have been like, that's insane. And then some of the things it would have been like, that's terrible. And then some of the things been like, oh, that's great. Wow, it's been a roller coaster. But yeah, it's definitely been a roller coaster.
Is there anything you'd change?
No. I don't think so. There's like there are a few things I would have done differently, but imagining that doesn't do any good.
Right. You're right.
It's like I can't. it's done.
You're right. What how do you think your work, because you know you gave us your mission statement that you just want to create a better world. You want to create work. You want to create art that makes people kind of respond to want to be better. So how do you think your work has influenced you to be better?
A lot of the time, I think my work or the message is like who I want to be, as opposed to who I am now. So a lot of the times, I think what I end up making is a better person than I am. But I feel like I'm trying. So hopefully that'll help change me too.
Yeah. Do you play any characters that you think, ooh, I really learn a lot about myself by playing this role? About those?
I'm making one now that's about a woke superhero. But he gets he like shows up to rectify like discriminatory situations, but he's so caught up in himself that he like always makes him a little bit worse. Lots of cool music though, and like it's gonna sort of look like a comic book in some parts. But really it's like a satire on like the idea of, you know, being so woke. But I feel that people get so caught up in themselves and like wearing that badge of honor that they like stop listening to the people with the problems.
Yeah, it's true. I think that's a really good point. If you could, here's going to be my last question of the day. I feel like this is the actor studio or something. Yeah, actually, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions because I want to ask you, because we really talked about the modeling side of things. Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about the acting side of things, because that's a little more expressive.
Yeah.
More challenging, I would think.
For sure. Way more challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you think you've grown in that art form?
You know, going back to me 6 or 7 years ago, I don't think I would have taken out any of the bad experiences, because to be like a better storyteller, you really need those. And that I see people on stage sometimes or on film, and I can tell like nothing bad has ever happened to them, but they're playing this character who's like really having a rough go of it. And I'm like, there's no truth in this. Like, they don't know how to tell the truth about this because they don't have one. And like every once in a while, like maybe 1% of actors, they'll have like just enough raw talent to be able to completely manufacture that, but it's pretty rare.
Yeah. Because you have to tap into emotions that you felt.
Yeah.
Tap into experiences and things that you've.
There's ways around it, but it's just not the same. Like, if you've never really felt grief, like you can't make grief up.
No, because it's a heavy emotion.
Yeah.
It is.
Everybody's been angry. You can feel angry. Everybody has felt sheepish before. Like you can do that, but there's some emotions that you just can't lie about.
Yeah. So give us a little picture of what has to happen behind the scenes and to prepare for those kinds of jobs or roles.
The heavier roles.
Yeah.
I think it just takes like a lot of connecting, kind of spending time with that person. It gets easier like the more you know them, but and being present really requires listening. And another thing that I see actors fall into is, and this will make anyone a better person too, is listening. Because like there are some people in real life who are just waiting their turn to talk. And that is boring AF to watch on stage. But like people do it in life too. So they're just like, they're waiting to speak instead of like, listening and having a conversation.
Yeah. That's such a great point. So what are some of the tools that you tap into? I know you work out. I know you follow your nutrition. I mean, because you have to stay you have to really take care of your body.
Yeah. Especially if you want to, compete in a lot of those job markets. Like if you want to be funny, you don't have to as much. A lot of times people don't want super fit people to be funny.
That's interesting.
But a lot of the romantic leads,
yeah, we want hot.
Yeah, gotta be hot.
And it goes both ways for both genders. We want eye candy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's a really interesting point. I had never thought of that. Good one. Dive into that. Well, I lost my thought. I'll admit it. I lost my thought. Yeah, because you dive into backtracking. You do fitness and you take care of your body. Are there other practices or things that you do on a regular basis? You talked about being present, and that for me is why I meditate. You talked about, are there other things that you do?
I still do yoga practices sometimes. I got a great studio down the street here in Queens, and finding your center there. Some of my more monostructural conditioning, like rowing for an hour, that can be a real meditation because like there's nowhere to hide.
Right.
So it's a little different than stillness because you're not still. But I think there's a certain place in exhaustion where you can find yourself again.
That's a good one. Well, and I think that there's something to be said about rhythmic movement.
And breathing. I always breathe and count on the tempos of like when I'm moving. And it's like when you're running, you inhale 4 steps, exhale 4 steps.
Mm-hmm.
And it can become a pranayama based practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my walks are meditation time.
Mm-hmm.
It allows me to get out of my head and out of my thoughts and just pay attention to the movement, pay attention to nature and the scenery and the sounds. So that is one way that I allow myself to get myself back instead of all those thoughts that send you a million different directions.
Yeah, connecting with your body can really help you, just move through space with yourself instead of like, you being out there somewhere. But sometimes like being out there is not so bad, but sometimes you got to be in your head.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's really important. I was thinking about this the other day. I don't know why. It's really important for actors, actresses. Like I just have always had this gift of understanding my body and understanding how it moved and where my center was and things like that. That was kind of my natural gift. But there's something, you just brought it up, like with understanding how you take space and how you move and how you do that, that's really kind of an important thing in your field, in your line of work.
Not everybody has it. not, it's amazing to me how many people just like in the world don't know how their muscles work at all, or like where they are or what they do, or like even where their bones are. And I'm like, surely you can feel them. Um, but
One would hope.
yeah, I think, there's a lot of classes we could, because like my health class, like in high school and middle school, like wasn't great. I think there's a lot of things that we need to teach in primary education that are just getting missed, and like how to eat. That would like be one of them, right? I grew up in the 90s. We ate like Dunkaroos and fruit roll-ups.
I
And
know.
like, that's what I wanted because that's what I saw in advertising. And like, my mom didn't want to hear me complain. So she'd be like, yeah, have as many fruit roll-ups as you want. I'm like, shut up. I love you. Shut up. But it was all about just like, like we didn't know any of that. My parents don't know any of that. My mom has like really gotten the fitness, since me and my sister are gone. She's like really found this like boot camp, and like that makes me so proud of her. Like my dad walks around outside, and good for him. But like we did not grow up like that.
Yeah. Which gives me hope that maybe the ship is going to turn around slowly, but it's
I
turning.
think so.
It's turning.
Yeah, and like group fitness is such a big thing now, and like there's so many boutique studios. So like really anybody can find something that they think is fun because there's like an unlimited amount of options from them to choose from.
That's always been my thing, is you've got to find what is fun for you so you'll stick with it.
Because if it's not fun, like you're not gonna do it, or you're gonna hate it, you're gonna like resent going.
Yeah.
People buy these like Globo gym memberships that they literally never go to, but they buy it because they feel guilty, and then they feel guilty. But like guilt and reward doesn't work. You just like have to enjoy it.
That's such a good one. Guilt and reward doesn't work. And we were kind of messaging back and forth about group fitness that I think one of the reasons that we see all these studios popping up and being successful is because people long for connection. And it's a way to have a community, because people do notice after a little while, people do notice when you're not in that yoga class or not in that CrossFit, for a week or two or whatever it may be. That group starts to look out for one another. And I think that is the deeper thing that these live classes and these live studios are offering. Yes, it's the workout. Yes, it's the whatever with your body, but I think at an even deeper level, it's that social connection and that aspect of wellness that we're really kind of lacking in our world with our go lifestyles.
Sure, the social component's huge. It's also, less expensive than one-on-one training. Like it's way more approachable financially, and there's less pressure.
Yeah. What's your favorite?
I love all kinds. I'll tell you what my favorite is not. I do not. Well, I don't want to slander cycling, but like not my favorite. I ride bikes for an hour all the time, right? Like assault bikes or like around the city, but I can't do it for some reason. It's probably because my knees. It hurts my knees, and like there's really no way to modify the bike except making the tension less. But like you're still going to that circle, and like you're still attached.
Yeah.
My favorites. I love weightlifting classes. Always love a good yoga class. Any endurance or HIIT, like stuff where like you're moving around a lot. It's exciting.
But that's your energy.
Yeah.
That is so you.
Loud.
And you like that energy. You feed off of that. So that makes a lot of sense to me. Whereas on the bike, it's not that it's not necessarily energetic, but you're stationary.
And the lights are off and like the music's too loud. It's like.
Yeah. Yeah, I can. And you're not really interacting
with the other people, like at all.
Yeah, you're on the bike facing someone's back.
Mm-hmm.
Which for you, for an introvert, that's cool. For you, not so much.
There's not enough connection there, I think is the root of it.
Yeah, I actually get that with you as I'm analyzing this for our listeners. I actually really do understand that and get that and can totally see that. So if there is one thing that you would like to leave our listeners with in terms of just some motivation or inspiration, something that has really kind of helped you, what would that be?
What I want to touch back on is supplements are supplemental. They're never going to replace any of your dieting or any of your training. They might help you, but they can't replace that. And I'd also like to say that Holly is, the best like fitness teacher I've ever had and wellness. I really appreciate everything she did for me. She taught me a lot about, just being a person. And another thing is, if what you're eating makes you feel bad, it's probably not right. So really listen to your body and like react. And like, if you have to, keep notes on like how certain meals made you feel, but like your body is usually pretty spot on. So learning those cues will help you just live your life.
It seems so common sense, but people don't trust themselves.
Yeah. And a lot of the refined sugars, like after you don't have them for a week, they don't even taste good anymore. Where those are really trained into you.
Isn't that the truth? First, after I cut out all that stuff, the wheat and flour, or the sugar and flour, because that was the first things when I was trying to straighten out my gut health. Those are the first things I was told to eliminate. And the first time I had a slice of pizza, which had been like at least a year, I was like, why? How did I even like this before?
Yeah.
It was really interesting to observe how we just mindlessly take things in. And when we really give our bodies the chance to settle into what they like, it's interesting that your diet, your exercise, your all kinds of things will change as you get to know your body.
Crazy.
So thanks so much for taking time to join us, for sharing what you do to take care of your body and your health and your mind and everything else in the midst of your crazy, chaotic, exciting, adventurous lifestyle.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for sharing some of those insights into your industry that we maybe that I didn't know. I didn't know that you couldn't Photoshop. So I'm really glad to know that now. And
only for certain FDA approved
I get
products.
that. Yep. Thank you for clarifying that.
Mm-hmm.
But I did not know that. So I'm really pleased to hear that. And that'll make me pay more attention for that little asterisk down at the bottom in the fine print that says FDA approved.
Lighting goes a long way. You can, it really does though. So a lot of the things you see in ads are lighting too.
And mood.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen videos where the person will say, like, think of something really sad. And it just pulls that person's face and their body down. And it totally changes the outcome of the photo. So, yeah, you're right. There are tricks that
you don't need a Photoshop to do.
No. And we can use those same tricks. We didn't talk about this, but you can use those same tricks in your own personal well-being. So if you're sad, you can start to think of something that makes you happy, and it'll change your body posture, and it'll change the expression on your face. It works in real life too.
Yeah.
Crazy cool stuff. Hey listeners, thanks for joining this week's episode of Living from the Inside Out. And I hope that you'll join next week, because I am going to dive in deeper. I alluded to it. I'm making up words. I alluded to it earlier when we were talking about supplements, but I'm going to take some of the health claims to the test and let you know whether it's truth or fiction. Thanks for joining. Have a great week.
Thank you for joining us at Living from the Inside Out. Listen every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. To connect with Holly, just go to www.globalvoiceradio.com. Global Voice Radio is where your voice and your message is heard.